And just look at that. I'm gonna look at it to make sure I can see it. I probably should have done, oh my goodness, look at that, that's so good. That's so good.
You might have noticed that the top of my head is not in the frame. I understand that this is a terrible way to do a video, but I'm not going to throw this one away because these pork chops were amazing, but I will endeavor to do better in the future. Now, we're just getting back on the horse with this YouTube stuff, so bear with me as I work out the kinks, but in the meantime, just have a laugh every time you see me not in the picture.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Strand Ranch, and we are in the kitchen again today. My name is Ryan, glad to have you here. Today, I'm pretty excited. We're doing some KuneKune chops. That's a lard pig. This pig is designed to be fatter and to have intramuscular fat that is marbling, like a ribeye or the Wagyu beef, which is so well spoken of. That fat's going to add flavor, and it's really good for you comparatively. If you're worried about eating fat because you think it's not healthy for you, this is the healthy kind. In moderation, of course. And I'm excited about this as well. This is the top of a Brussels sprout plant. It comes to a head almost like a giant Brussels sprout in the middle. We've never eaten one before, but we're going to find out about it. We're going to see how it does. It's well matured. I think it's going to taste the same as a Brussels sprout. We're going to use it in leaf form, almost like a cabbage or a collard, and that's going to be fun. And what goes better with pork than some kind of green, right? We're going to saute them. This is going to be very easy. We're going to saute the pork chops, and we're going to saute the greens, the Brussels sprout head or crown, after we saute the pork chops. So while the pork chops are resting, we're doing up the greens. By the time the greens are done, and it's going to take no time, we'll be ready to eat. Now, we are going to cook this low and slow, relatively speaking. We do want the browning to happen. We want a little bit of crust on there, but we also want to render some of that fat. And you can see how fatty it is. It's a very fatty pig, and the chop has quite a bit of fat in it. Now, you may see that and be intimidated by it, or you think, why would I want that? Well, if you're not a fan of fat, you may not want the chop. If you don't mind the fat, just eat around it. If you like the fat, then you're going to love this. Now, this is a versatile piece because it is so fatty. So you can low and slow it, you can crock pot it, you can do all kinds of things with it. Almost like a shoulder, if you will, but it is thin and you don't want to overcook the meat. So that is a challenge. But you can think of this like a little ribeye almost, because it is so fatty and it is so marbled. Also, I'm not going to do it here, but we can cut some of this fat cap off. You can cut most of this fat cap off. These are smaller chops. This particular pig was a smaller pig. This pig was right around 150 pounds. Typically, we'll bring the Kunes to 250 pounds, but one of the things we're doing this year is we are changing our pig program. So these pigs were raised in the woods. We like to raise pigs in the woods because they get the acorns, and that's very important, and we're going to do a whole series on that, not to worry. But this is a small pig, so don't you worry too much about these chops being so small. They will be bigger. However, these pigs being lard pigs, they're not going to be the size of the pigs that you're accustomed to in the grocery store, where the same chop would be much larger. This is a specialty pork, if you will. But I don't want to get too far off into that because I'll forget what I was doing entirely. I do that sometimes. So sauteing both of them. This meal won't take very long at all, 10 or 15 minutes once we get going. And I may actually talk longer than it takes to cook it, but I'm going to try not to because it is so simple. We just really need to see what this looks like. I'm very excited. Another thing here is you can see that these are two different style chops. You see, very different style in these chops. This is one pack. So when you buy a pack of chops from our store or from Amish Touch on Main Street in Crestview, or anywhere, a delivery. We have lots of options. When you buy a package, this is how it comes. It's a package of 4, so it's got 2 of these and 2 of these. Pretty cool, right? Lots of variety in there. Now, let's move you on over here because this is gonna go real fast. We're gonna set our pan to medium high to begin with in order to get the sear that we want. And that's gonna heat up while we address this. What is this called? It's a Brussels sprout crown. What are we gonna do with this Brussels sprout crown? Never done it before. We're just gonna take these leaves off to begin with. And I'm gonna stack them up like this because I'm gonna take off most of that stalk. So you see, they just peel off. Pull down, they break right off. This is very similar to many of the other greens. There's so many greens that you don't think about eating that are great. My favorite green, and the one I was gonna do today, but I forgot it, is the broccoli leaf. Broccoli leaves are amazing. And so I expect these to be amazing too. So many foods here in the West we don't even think about eating because it's unusual to us. So I'm gonna just, at this point, it gets down to the core. I'm just gonna cut this straight off there and put that there because it's funny. Always wash your vegetables. Always wash your vegetables. Now, these aren't all going to be cut the same, so straight down there. So there are some stems. I don't know if I like that or not. More stem than I want on a lot of this. Then we're going to take off some more stem. Is that necessary? I don't know. We're going to find out. It's that easy. If you're wanting or you prefer to go one by one, you can. And you could probably just break the stems off if you'd prefer. So there you go. Easily 3 servings for this relatively light lunch. Let's go see about this pork, huh? All right, now our pan is smoking. We are ready to rock. So first thing we're gonna do is salt and pepper the meat. That's it. So much of this stuff is so good on its own that you don't need to season it too much. So don't get crazy with it. Unless you want to, you can get crazy with it. But I don't want to mask it in any way. I want the flavors of the meat to come out. So for me, so far, it's just salt and pepper. And we're not going to do the other side until it's in the pan. Now I'm going to use a little olive oil here. Make sure we've got it around. Amazing. Here we go. We're going to lay it away from ourselves, right? And don't overcrowd the pan. We may have to do this in shifts. So we'll do the big steak style chops first. So they're in. Give her a little shake. She is not sticking. So right now we're going to sear it a little bit. Now I'm kind of just going as we go here. Since I haven't done these before, I've had KuneKune before, but I haven't done this cut of meat before. So we're learning together. So we're going to start by searing it up a little bit. We're not going to go too far because we do want to render that fat. We're going to sear it. We're going to lock those flavors in. They're all going to get trapped in there and it's going to be lovely. Now I'm watching as these pieces sit in the pan the fat is whitening, and I can see it starting to get translucent almost. It's so white, the fat is so white, it almost looks like leaf lard. Almost. That's a lovely looking fat. Very clean fat, very healthy fat. All right, we're almost there. So we're going to go ahead and do it now. It's going to brown more because we're going to move it to the side and low and slow it. So I should have seasoned it there, but I didn't because I'm blabbering and not paying attention. All right, now we're going to go in with these since we made some room. Look at that, isn't that lovely? The smell is amazing. Now, I learned my lesson, so now we're going to go ahead. Season the other side. Now you don't want this to get away from you. So you may want to do two at a time. Just take your time. Do the two biggest pieces first, and then go. Because these are smaller, they're going to cook a little faster. So we're browning this side while we brown the other side of these. And then when we flip these, we're going to flip those again, and then we're going to turn the heat down. And then we'll probably continue to flip them just to make sure that they don't get overcooked while we render some of that fat. Now look how much fat is rendering in that pan. I didn't put that much olive oil in there. Look at all that fat. Those greens are going to be delicious. Delicious. I'm very excited. This smells great. Yep, so there. That's about right. Remember, because we're not going all the way here. Now, I am going to turn this way down. And then flip them again. I've got to season these. Yeah, look at that brown. That's a little closer than it should be. They're a little closer to each other than I would prefer. But I did that to myself, didn't I? Yeah. You don't really want it that close in there. All right, so we've got that turned down. I need to season this opposite side, don't I? Before I forget. Now, I never go crazy with the salt. Never. So sometimes my food can get a little bit bland. No, we're going to hit that if I'm not careful, because I don't like to go too hard on the salt. Now, if you have to choose between going heavy on the salt or going light on the salt, you should always go light on the salt, because you can add salt at the table or at the end of the cook if you need to. Can't take salt away, right? Look at all that fat that's rendering. Now, because I have the pan overloaded, this is going to be difficult, but I'm going to try to do some basting while that renders, because look at all of that fat. A lot of times I'll add butter here to continue to add a little bit more flavor and to aid in the browning. I'm not sure that's necessary with all this fat. So much fat is already rendered. And I'm making a mess. You see that mess? I'm splashing it everywhere. It's terrible. So you see how this basting is browning that other side. Ow! And now I've burned myself. I've done it. There is so much rendered fat already, and it's so clean. So I'm going to keep flipping these. Poorly. I am not a professional chef, folks. I'm just an enthusiast. I am a fan of food. I love it. I love cooking. And I love eating. I love really good food. And just look at that. I'm gonna look at it to make sure I can see it. I can't, I probably should have done, oh my goodness, look at that, that's so good. That's so good. So much fat. Oops. Sounded like a cheerleader there for a second, that's kind of silly. Basting, basting, terrible basting. Yeah, don't be intimidated by it, folks. It's just food. Just do your best. Now, we got a little ways. Now, you could do this in the oven. You could finish it in the oven. Low and slow this thing. I mean, once you get it brown, you can stick it in the oven 225 and run it all the way down. You don't have to worry about overcooking it too much when you do it like that. And doing it that way will render the fat. But I want to know how this does, just in the pan like this. On a low, low heat. We're almost there. And you need to know, can you, with these fatty pieces, these fatty pork chops, can you render enough in the pan, or do you have to take that extra step to reduce more of that fat? Now, I love fat. I love fat. I'm that guy. If somebody doesn't like fat and they reserve it to the side of their plate, I'll take it. I'm the guy that's going to take the fat. I will, every time, because I love it. Gotta be a little careful of that. Store-bought fat is worse. Store-bought fat is terrible. And you don't want to do that all the time, you know? You don't want to be the guy that's just eating chunks of fat. Don't be that guy on a regular basis. Everything in moderation. Everything. Look at that. And you can see, let me make sure you can see, oh yeah, you can see how much fat is rendered already. Already. And I'm not going to go much further because that's pretty much, oh yeah, that's good. Now, we're going to take them out to rest. Look at that. Let me see, make sure you can see that. And, I don't know, there it is. Look at that, just beautiful. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Oh my goodness, that is amazing. The fat is retaining its shape. We'll talk about that more in a moment. Oh, come here, you. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm singing like a goofball. I'm in here singing to myself. There's nobody else here this time. Just singing to myself. All right. Wow. I'll tell you what. Now I'm going to stand behind here so you can see it. If that plate of pork chops doesn't get you excited, you don't like pork chops. Amazing. I'm going to set it to the side to rest. While it's resting, we're going to do these vegetables. Now, as I'm looking at these vegetables, we're going to go a little lower. That's a hot pan. I'm looking at these vegetables and I'm looking at the pan. And I don't think they're going to fit in there in this configuration. So I'm going to slice them. Just going to slice them. However which way, who cares? I'm just cutting them into strips, leaving the stems on, which at this point, since we're going to cut them, you could just cut those stems out altogether if you were so inclined. But I want to know what's going to happen. So we're going to get them just stripped. And now we're going to just throw them right in that bacon grease. Be careful. Woo! If you get them dried a little bit better, that won't happen. Oh, it got me. Now, I'm going to turn this heat off because we don't need it anymore. That's enough heat. So there's salt and pepper in the pan, but I am going to give it a little bit more. Just kind of flip it over. See how it's browning in there so very quickly? A little bit of fried greens in there. Almost like kale. Now that's how I like them. If you don't like them that crispy, don't make them that crispy. You see how quick that was? These are done. Now I'm gonna get a plate, which I should have had in the first place, but I blew that too. There we go. All right. Kind of let them drain a little bit so you don't get too greasy. But again, this is healthy fat, folks. This is good for you in moderation. Man, that's pretty. Then the leaves fried up. Let me see, make sure you can see that. There you are. The leaves, they crisped up just like the Brussels sprouts would. They smell like Brussels sprouts. Aren't those beautiful? All right, we'll come back in a minute. Okay, so, boy, that's a pretty one. Let's do like this right here. We're just going to get in there. And easy, easy. Took 10 minutes. And so you can see how, you know, Brussels sprouts, when you cook them at high heat, they get the crispy like that. Yes. It did the same thing. Crispy. And that was just in the fat, salt and pepper. And what goes better with pork than some greens? No. Nothing in the world. And a big old honkering piece of bread. So, Brussels sprout crown, KuneKune Pork Chop, and sourdough bread. Everything on this plate can be purchased here at Strand Ranch. Who wants the steak?
Go for it.
All right, now hold off till I get the camera on you. You want a steak or you want a...
Give me a chop this time.
Okay. You want a fattier one or a less fatty one?
Fatty would be fine with me.
It rendered so much. I'm going to have to do a before and after. This is the one with the huge fat cap, and it just did fine.
My mouth is watering.
Perfect. And some greens. Get you a little more greens. So that one head is 3 servings easily. And once again, I didn't give anybody. I'm going to cut this one here so that we can see it. And we'll save that one for Miss Linda. There you go. Some knives. Did I leave you enough room there? We're farming and cooking, and I am a terrible server. Everybody eats with their hands. Okay.
Pork chops can be considered finger food, couldn't it?
I don't see why not. So let's cut this one open and see what happens. We're just going to go right down the middle. Ooh, that's pretty. Where are you? There you are. Look at that. For those of you at home that are concerned, that pink is not raw. Okay, you don't have to cook your pork into submission, especially when it's raised healthily. That's a done pork chop. Same with the other side. You can see the fat. It does retain some texture, but it renders very well. So, let's see a real-time reaction. The fellas just came in from working, and so they're hungry, and they're going to give it a try. Go ahead, guys. Give us a taste test. Tell us about it.
That's amazing. That's an awesome piece of meat.
Yep. Wow.
Pork flavor is there.
Mm-hmm. Man, there's no comparison. It's fatty, but the fat is not off-putting.
Not at all. No, it's got the flavor too.
It's good flavor, and it's light, you know? It's not thick, coating the mouth, and it just blends right in with it.
It almost just melts in your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. Mm-mm-mm. Look. Can't fake that. You see my chill bumps?
I tell you what, those greens taste just like Brussels sprouts.
They do, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't know the difference.
What do you think about the greens, Bryce? Even the stem, they were only in the pan for 15, 20 seconds.
Wow.
Tender enough. More tender than kale. What do you think?
It's better than buttered popcorn.
Man. And there's no butter in the pan. I put a little olive oil in there to get the pork started, but that's just the pork fat.
Definitely more flavor than kale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. My goodness. That's absurd. That is so good. And it almost tastes like butter was added. Doesn't it?
Yeah.
How'd that happen? So, I always ask this at the house, just out of curiosity. If you were at a restaurant, how much would you pay for this plate of food? Layman's terms, what would you be willing to pay for this plate of food at a restaurant?
Probably close to 20.
I'm going to say 20, 22.
That's fantastic.
Pretty fancy type meal.
That's a high number for folks like us.
Definitely.
We're humble farmers, you know. How often do we pay for a $20 plate of food? Wow. That's amazing. You got to try the KuneKune. It's in the store right now. Think about it.